It is now 6:10. We will go ahead and get started this evening. When you are speaking, please be sure to unmute your microphone to be heard on the broadcast. The public who did not register in advance can watch the live broadcast on the city's YouTube channel. For live Spanish translation services, please dial 720-386-9023 and use code 104091 *. Para servicios de traducción en español en vivo, por favor marque al 720-386-9023 y use el código 104091 *.
I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Will staff please do roll call?
Commissioner Sanchez,
Present.
Commissioner Van Heusen,
Present.
Commissioner Schechter,
Present.
Commissioner Kiefer,
Present.
and Commissioner Eggleston.
Present.
Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. Will you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Before getting to our agenda this evening, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Ryan Kiefer, an alternate who will be sitting on the commission this evening. We will now need to vote upon a chairperson for the Planning Commission. Anyone interested, please nominate themselves. I'll nominate myself.
I'll nominate myself.
Because we have two nominees, let's have two separate votes, and we don't want to have them vote twice. So just vote one time. Will that work? Or does that not work? Or you vote, if you want to vote for the second person, vote against the first person. Yeah, okay.
Really?
That makes more sense.
All right, let me think about this a second.
Yes, you can vote for yourself.
I don't know. Okay, great. Can I have, I'm not sure, can I have a motion appointing the chair? It could just be casual.
Well, we
Or-
need to vote before
Oh.
we appoint. Yeah, sorry, the script doesn't really envision the voting part.
So first, we'll open the
Oh,
vote.
it does, yeah.
So,
Okay, so we need to have a vote first on whether Rob Schechter should be chair, and then we'll have a second vote about whether Deborah Eggleston should be chair.
all right, and you'd like us to not vote yes twice?
Yeah, don't
basically.
vote yes twice.
But
Can-
do vote twice. So you're going to vote yes one time, and you're going to vote no one time.
Well, you know what? I'd like to have a short discussion period where we could discuss, since there's two candidates. Does that sound good? Deborah, like for example, Deborah, I'd like to, I think it'd be cool if you were the chair. I'd like to know if you've done this kind of thing before, you know? I'd like to hear a little spiel if you have one. Well, or I don't know, something.
Is your mic unmuted?
I can't force you, but just a minute before we do, yeah, I didn't know, yeah. Do we, I don't know. Because I'm inclined to vote for you.
Thank you, Rob. So what do you want to know?
I don't know, like, I don't have any particular questions. Have you been a chair of a commission before, or?
I have not been a chair of commission. I've been on many committees where I was treasurer, secretary, different positions,
Okay,
but not the actual chair. I was on Chamber of Commerce. I was the treasurer for that for 5 years. I was on the HOA committee of my subdivision. I'm on the Metro District Board So I'm the secretary for that. So
Nice.
yeah. But I have not been an actual chair of a committee.
As for me, this is my first. Let's see. I've been on the board of a community radio station, nonprofit, and act as the treasurer and I was counsel for some HR issues. But this is my first experience, running Bob's Rules of Order and doing this. And so you've seen what my skills or lack of skills are like here. So this is me catching up and reading through the manual as fast as I can. So. And I like helping things move along efficiently. So that's about it. I think you have more experience than me. I don't know. I feel either way is fine. So if you're really into it, that's great. Okay.
I guess we'll vote and see.
Yeah.
Right?
I'd like to point out two things. One is our request to speak is not on. So I haven't been able to request.
No speaking from you.
No, I'll just speak out loud then.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Commissioner Eggleston, you were on Planning Commission as an alternate before you were seated as a,
Yes,
Commissioner?
I was.
so
For-
you've actually been with the Planning Commission for how long?
I was appointed regular in last August, I think,
And prior to
or
that,
August of '24.
and prior to that, you were
Prior to
an
that, I
alternate.
was on almost 2 years as an alternate before I became a regular.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Anybody else have any other questions or? All right. Let's open up voting then. I guess first for me as chair.
Yeah, we'll set a vote for you as chair.
Two chair secretary. Okay, it's a request to, thank you. All right. Okay then, so that failed 5 noes to 0 yes. And now I'd like, if you could open up voting for Deborah as chair, please. All right, and that passes 5 yes to 0 no. Excellent, congratulations.
Thank you. Now we have to vote on vice chair.
Yeah, oh,
We don't
right.
need to vote on vice chair because Commissioner Schechter is already vice chair.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, beautiful.
But now we need to have,
You should switch seats.
do we need to have like an official
well,
motion
okay.
or?
Can I make a
No, I guess we're
motion
already, yeah.
for the sake of time, because he's already been,
No, you're chair now. You have to take the seat.
I was gonna say It would
Congratulations.
be easier because he's already briefed him for tonight.
You'll be fine. Follow the script.
Okay.
Heather and I are always available for questions.
Jean? Excuse me, Jean? We would have to formally motion to appoint her now, wouldn't we?
What's that?
Wouldn't we formally have to motion to appoint her at this point?
That's what the voting was. You elected her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready? Can I get a motion to approve the January 6, 2026 meeting minutes?
So moved.
I will second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Sanchez and a second by Commissioner Van Huzen. Please open the electronic voting.
Commissioner Schechter, do you want to cast your vote?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did. Yeah, I had. Oh, you know what? It still says Deborah here on my thing.
Oh,
Here, let me fix that real quick.
so I just voted for Rob.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, I reset the vote. If you can cast them again, please.
The motion passes, 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstained, 0 absent. Can I get a motion to approve the February 3rd, 2026 meeting minutes?
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Schechter and a second by Commissioner Kiefer. Please open an electronic voting. The motion passes, 5 yes, 0 no, and 0 absent.
As you're moving to the next case, I'm noticing that the script is incorrect. It says the applicant does not have a presentation. And in the case of A1 Organics, they do have a presentation. So we're going to have the applicant go first, followed by staff.
Okay. I will open the public hearing on case CUP 25-0002, A1 Organics Conditional Use Permit Renewal. The applicant will present, so can the applicant please come forward? Could you please state your name and address for the record?
All right, that better? Good evening. Sorry, I have to lean over a little bit here. Congratulations on your new appointment. First thing, we get to be the test case tonight. You're doing great so far, so good. So, good evening. We're happy to be here. My name is Ryan McBreen with Norris Design, 1101 Bannock Street, Denver, Colorado, 80204. We're assisting the A1 Organics team on processing this conditional use permit through the City of Commerce City tonight. So first and foremost, I would like to thank staff for getting us here tonight. We appreciate their hard work and efforts as we started this process here a few months ago. And a special thank you to Kathleen. She's substituting, she's pinch hitting for Omar tonight. So I appreciate her this evening and all she's doing for us today. So without further ado, I know we have a 10-minute brief presentation or 10-minute timeline. We're going to try to keep our presentation brief, but I want you to know that I'm here, and then we also have the applicants, A1 Organics, here to answer any questions about operations and what they've got going on here today. So without further ado, we'll get rolling. It was working. Yes.
Kathleen, while they're getting the presentation ready, would you do the introduction of the case on page 2?
Okay, how's my volume? Because I hate leaning in like this. Is this good? Can you hear me okay? Should I be louder? A little louder. Okay. CUP 25-0002, A1 Organics is requesting a renewal of a conditional use permit for a storage of wood chips and mulch piles up to 25 feet. The subject property is currently zoned I2, Medium Intensity Industrial District, consisting of approximately 31.01 acres and is located at 9109 Monaco Street. The existing conditional use permit was granted in April 2021 for a term of 5 years.
All right, I think we've got it working. All right, I think we've got it working now. Brief introduction about A1 Organics. They provide mulch, organic compounds, soils, mulches, and recycling services throughout the Colorado Front Range with 4 locations in Eaton, Keensburg, Englewood, and of course Commerce City. A big thing about what they do is they divert this waste that otherwise would go to a landfill. Just last year, over 500,000 tons of waste was diverted, which is pretty significant. Travis is going to come up and share a few more details after that. But it's a family-owned and operated operation since 1974. They've been at this location since 2015. I think we're familiar with where the site is, but just a little bit to the northwest of 88th Avenue and US 85. A little bit closer, zoom in there. It's in a bit of a hodgepodge area. It's on the west side of the city. We're bordered by Thornton's, gravel ponds, water holding on the west side. To the south is industrial, and to the east is industrial uses in unincorporated Adams County. And there are couple residential uses to the east, rural residential on their eastern boundary. The overall site is at roughly 31 acres. Around 22% or 7 acres or so are actually in floodplain on the far west side. You can see that hatched area. A1 Organics is actually only a portion of the site, roughly 12 acres usable, which is on the back half. Up against, on the east side, adjacent to Monaco, is a different user and a separate user that's not subject to tonight's conditional use permit. As we talked about, if you look at this picture here, this is a view looking westward from Monaco Avenue. You can see the building on the right side, the green and yellow one. That is on the property and subject here, but that is not A1 Organics. This road in front of you is the entrance road that gets you to that property, as well as A1 Organics on the backside. As you can see, the property drops significantly from Monaco Road to the west, which further kind of hides the A1 Organics use, if you will, from the public right-of-way. As previously mentioned, this was opened in June of 2015. We've been in front of this board and the city council in 2019 for our first conditional use permit application, again in 2021, and then obviously here tonight. Since we were here last time in 2021, we've had 0 public health or safety violations or notices. As far as we know, there's been no formal complaints with the city of Commerce City to this point. South Adams Fire visits annually and just visit the site to ensure compliance. And additionally, Adams County Public Health Department is out regularly to check on our thing. There was a letter from a concerned resident that we received yesterday. I think Kathleen shared with us yesterday. Obviously, I'm not sure if it's part of your packets or not.
They haven't.
Okay, if it was, we did do a response to comments to that I'd like to enter into the record. I don't know if that got to you or not, but I'm gonna hand it over here if you don't mind passing that. I'm not going to get into the finer details just because we have 10 minutes, but if you have any specific questions, we're happy to answer any and all of those. We don't believe any of the claims are substantiated, and that we do meet all the required criteria to get a conditional use permit passed. One of the big things that A1 Organics tries to be is a good neighbor and run a great clean operation. And some of the big things they do is under best management practices is making sure they're a good neighbor and doing things the right way. So certain things such as shutting down operations during windy conditions, making sure water is down on roads or MAC chloride to make sure that dust is mitigated on hot and windy days. Equip conveyors with dust skirts to direct the mulch. We operate grinding and screening on the west side of the site, which is furthest away we can be from adjacent residential uses. Regularly have hired contractors to clean up and keep the site clean, keep it free of trash and debris. And during high winds, they have an on-site weather station that they actually will shut down operations so that they don't make a mess and keep air quality at the best quality it can be. As previously mentioned, we've been here since 2015. 2019, we came in with the first conditional use permit. Per that, we had to renew it within 2 years, which we did again in 2021. Then in 2021, it was renewed for another 5 years, and that's why we're here tonight. Just as a reminder, the organic recycling facility isn't allowed use in the underlying zoning. What the conditional use permit is allowing us to do is have higher pile heights of up to 25 feet, which the current zoning only allowed 8 feet. The taller piles allow materials to stay moist and compact. They're less sensitive to weather conditions like wind and erosion, and they allow for more efficient use of space. So we're not asking for anything more than we previously were granted starting way back in 2019. Some of the major conditions that we've complied with, and we'll get into further detail later on, but really are conforming and helping out with adjacent residential uses are, as mentioned, the grinding and screening, which is kind of the most, I think probably maybe the most objectionable use out there is set back at least 500 feet from the residences. We do also have a 25-foot high demarcation pole used as a flagpole, just kind of help gauge so anybody can drive by, quick reference point to say, hey, we're meeting our height requirements. And then along the east side, directly adjacent to the residential uses, they've installed an 8-foot screen fence with mesh on it so that it can capture any and all debris that might blow across the site there. Additionally, a further buffer from residential is recycled asphalt road base, and then there's a setback there that makes sure that none of the uses are happening or the piles are done adjacent to the properties there. Before you is the conditional use approval criteria from the city of Commerce City. I'm not going to read through these all. They're all part of your packet tonight, and I'm sure Kathleen will go through them. But as evidenced in our packet tonight and through other findings, we meet all these review criteria. We were found to meet it in 2019. We were found to meet it again in 2021. We believe we meet it again in 2026 with no changes proposed. Additionally, starting in 2019, there were 11 review criteria, or excuse me, conditions of approval that we requested to do and required to do to make sure that we can run our operation smoothly. Includes what we're doing, dyeing mulch chips, minimum of setbacks from residential properties, as well as the grinding operations we discussed, talking about shutting down operations when it's too windy or weather doesn't permit, continual watering of roadways and piles to make sure that there's no dust, talking about creating the mesh fence along the east side to catch any debris that may come through, and then also the demarcation pole. All of our drive aisles are paved with recycled asphalt. That keeps dust down and also provides fire access, safe fire access, I should say. And then we also make sure we keep the site clean, free of debris and trash. There was a dust control and mitigation plan that's with part of the city and the part of the application material that we follow diligently as well. And then obviously we have to follow all federal, state, and local laws. All these conditions are conditions we've had to follow for the past 7+ years, and they're all conditions we have continually met. I know staff has been out on site multiple times and found that we have been in conformance with that. I can let Kathleen speak to that more. In closing, we're asking for recommendation of approval of this conditional use permit. Allows the continuation of a successful business, supports reinvestment and continued improvement of this site, and there have been no formal complaints associated with operations before what we heard yesterday. Application's been reviewed by staff. We believe we're in full compliance with all prior conditions confirmed, and all required applicable criteria for the CUP renewal have been satisfied. Additionally, development review team recommends approval. We appreciate your time tonight, and we would appreciate your support today. I'm going to pass it over to Travis to say a few words, but we're here to answer any and all questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions for the staff?
Let's do the applicant, finish the applicant presentation with the second gentleman, and then you can ask questions of the applicant.
Okay.
And then staff will present, and then you can ask questions of staff.
Okay.
Sorry, the script is different.
It is different. I
Yeah.
didn't know we had a second presentation.
It's not second, it's just part of the same.
Well, I didn't know there was a second person. Go ahead, come forward. Could
Hi,
you?
everybody. Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Travis Bonson. I'm the president of A1 Organics. And do you need my address to be entered into our business or personal?
I don't know if it matters, does it, Gene?
Okay. Our business address is 16350 County Road 76 in Eaton, Colorado, 80615. And I'm just here I just wanted to give you a little bit more background about A1 Organics. We're now fifth generation family, the Wilson family that homesteaded Weld County, Colorado. Back in 1974, the family was the largest or a very large sheep family. We do, besides this wood waste that you're seeing us recycle here, we are the state's largest organic recycler. The 500,000 tons puts us about 61% of the state's organic recycling is processed through A1 Organics. We have two large composting sites, one in the Keensburg area and one up in Eaton. This facility we're talking about now does not do any type of composting on site. It's just purely green waste recycling that we make some colored mulches, and then also provides us some of the carbon, the wood that we take to our compost facility to take materials that would otherwise be diverted to landfill. I just wanted to mention a couple things that we do with the City of Commerce City that we're proud of. We do 2 free days for residents to come drop off Christmas trees each season. And we have 2 fall cleanup days and 2 spring cleanup days for residents to come to our sites and bring their yard clippings, tree trimmings, and all those types of things to us for free. So we really appreciate working with the City of Commerce City and doing those things. I wanted to also mention that since we opened, we have recycled, just in this facility, 1,300,000 yards of material through that facility. And I did a little research on the EPA WARM model, and that's the Environmental Protection Agency's model for methane production diversion. And so this particular site has an estimated methane savings from landfill of over 20,000 metric tons by keeping this material out of our landfills. So I just wanted to mention that to you. I thought that'd be an interesting note. And I've got Kent Pendley, our Chief Operating Officer here, who's responsible for the sites. So we're here as a team to answer any questions you might have operationally. I know staff has been out to site and saw the facility, and I hope the pictures do it justice. It's a very clean, well-organized site, and we are doing our best to be a good resident here at Commerce City. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess the city will now present.
Do you have any questions for the applicant at this time, or do you want to hear the city's presentation first? We can always come back to the applicant for questions.
We can do all the questions at the same time. I already have some for the city and.
Okay. Can we
Okay,
have
so
the
we'll have
city
staff
present?
presentation. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll get started here. A1 Organics conditional use permit. This is a renewal of a conditional use permit. As the applicant mentioned, this is the second renewal. The first time it was issued for 18 months, and the second time it was issued for 5 years. We have some previous related cases that cite the conditional use permit as well as the development plan. 31 acres, we already talked about it being only a portion of that 31 acres as well as the site fronts on Monarch Street, not the business on Monarch Street. Oh, goodness. Okay, sorry. We will start over because I know there's someone at home watching it. Okay, we're renewing tonight a conditional use permit that was first approved for 18 months, then it was renewed for 5 years, and now they're coming back to renew that conditional use permit. And this is to allow storage of wood chips and mulch piles up to 25 feet in height. The use itself is allowed outright, just not this high of piles. So that's why they need the conditional use permit, is to allow to go from 8 feet to 25 feet. It's zoned I2, medium intensity industrial, and within our future land use plan map, I'll show you in just a minute, it's within the Northern Business District. This is our zoning map. You see it outlined in yellow. Looks like it got shifted off just a little bit there, but it's hatched in black, surrounded by Adams County unincorporated. Here's an aerial photography that was done in September 2025. So you can kind of see how the site functions. You can see the mulch piles a little bit in this photo. Here is the comprehensive plan map that refers specifically to the character areas. As I mentioned, it falls within the Northern Business District. Just to give you a little bit of background on this site, I know the applicant talked about it. Back in 2014, they got approval for a zone change, a development plan, and a final plat. I think the final plat was to consolidate the two pieces of property into one. And after everything was constructed, they asked for a final planning inspection, and at that time, we saw that the piles of mulch were exceeding 8 feet in height, at which time they had to obtain a conditional use permit. There was also some sort of dye leaking into a nearby waterway, and that was completely corrected. No problems have ever been demonstrated since then, and they've had multiple inspections from state as well as EPA to show compliance. There are a number of conditions on this conditional use permit that were set with the first conditional use permit and the second renewal, and I'm going to go ahead and go through each one. I think it's important to the function of their business. So the very first one there at the top, the approval applies to the development plan that was dated back in July 2019, the one that's specifically associated with the CUP. The conditional use permit is granted for the storage, only the storage of the dyed mulch chips, the inbound recyclable wood products, soil, mulching, material stackers, and raw wood chips, at a height no greater than 25 feet. And as the applicant mentioned, there is a demarcation pole on site where 25 feet is marked so that anyone can see, if anyone comes on site, they can see that they are within that allowable height. All mulch piles shall be a minimum of 100 feet from adjacent industrial properties, which the applicant has shown on and demonstrated in their presentation. And that's to be measured from the property line. And in terms of grinding and screening, they have to be set back a minimum 500 feet from the adjacent property, residential properties. There are no grinding operations that are allowed to occur on the site if the wind exceeds 15 miles per hour or for a duration of at least, there's to be no grinding if the wind speeds exceed 15 miles per hour for a duration of 10 minutes. The applicant shall maintain a minimum height of 8 feet, an 8-foot net along the east property boundary, and that's to prevent wood chips from blowing into the neighborhood properties. The applicant shall maintain that 25-foot demarcation pole that I mentioned. The primary drive aisles of the outdoor storage area, and the entire thing is pretty much outdoor storage, shall be paved with recyclable asphalt and maintained by the applicant as indicated in the approved development plan dating back to 2019. Water trucks shall be kept and utilized on site during business hours for the spraying of mulch piles and drive aisles. That's to keep the dust down. The property shall also act in accordance with the dust control and mitigation plan, and that is shown in your Exhibit A. It's one of the attachments in your packet. Due to the nature of the operations, the applicant will maintain the premises to be free of garbage, trash, and excessive wood chips and debris at all times. The applicant did mention in their presentation that they have staff specifically assigned to that. The applicant shall also comply with all federal, state, and local laws. Here is the development plan, and you can see the various areas labeled. There at the top right, the dyed materials and equipment. Then you see to the left of that and downward, the raw wood chips. Then you see the topsoil screening, the work and storage area, and then down below, the wood waste receiving, sorting, and chipping area. And it's that small building too that you see at the bottom. That's where your clients, your customers, that's where they stop on their way in. Here's some photos. You can see the demarcation pole of 25 feet, and then you can also see that 8-foot fence of netting along the side that is adjacent to the residential properties. Here's some more photos to demonstrate that the water trucks are mitigating for dust and spraying and keeping things down, keeping the roads free of trash and obstruction. You can see how clean the site is. And then we'll go ahead and touch on the criteria for the conditional use permit. The applicant has to demonstrate compliance with all of the conditional use permit criteria, except for we get towards the end where it says one or the other. The applicant has already shown that they have been demonstrating compliance with this approval criteria over the last 7 years. So this very first one, the proposed use will not result in any substantial or undue adverse effect on the adjacent property. So they have worked, the adjacent properties are industrial, agricultural uses. You can see that the applicant has done a significant amount of things to make sure that they are not impacting the surrounding areas. We talked about spraying the water, we talked about the net, we talked about how far back things are set to protect those other areas that surround them. Criteria 2, any adverse effect has been or will be mitigated to the maximum extent feasible, and they have certainly demonstrated that with all those different things, as well as having the dust mitigation plan. That's significant to making sure that we don't have any effects on the surrounding areas. The criteria number 3, the characteristics of the site are suitable for the proposed use, considering the size, shape, location, topography. You could see there that the applicant did a really good job of showing how with the topography starting to slope downward, it's almost impossible to really see the business from the street, which is nice, and what it's surrounded by. You don't have a bunch of neighbors looking in on it. It's really fairly well screened. They do a really good job with that. The proposed use will, criteria 4, the proposed use will be adequately served by and will not impose any, an undue burden on any of the existing improvements, facilities, or services of the city. The site has all the necessary utilities they need to function, and the proposed use of the site, they are meeting this criteria on a regular basis. The applicant, number 5, criteria 5, the applicant has provided adequate assurances of continuing maintenance. There have been multiple inspections on the site, and city staff is very well pleased to see that every single time things are clean, they're in check, dust mitigation is taken care of. It's really nice to have a business that seems to be doing such a good job with that. Criteria number 6, there is no evidence to suggest that the use violates any federal, state, or local requirements. And that is correct. The site does not appear to conflict with any federal, state, or local requirements. We've had the county health department as well as the state health department conduct numerous site visits, and they have found no violations. And the last one here, one of the following criteria is met. The use complies with the general purposes, goals, and objectives and standards within the comprehensive plan of our city. And within the comprehensive plan, I want to call out, we have a specific objective. It's one of the 4 main objectives, or excuse me, core principles. Environmentally thriving city. And under that is listed environmentally responsible practice. And I think that this business is a great example of one that is providing sustainability and giving back to the community by diverting this from the landfill. Staff is available to answer any questions for you.
Are there any questions for the staff or the applicant? You, Commissioner Sanchez?
All right, this is a question for staff. In looking at the dust control plan that was provided in section 2, a couple of mentions. One says proactive controls will be instituted. And in the next paragraph, it says A1 Organics will implement dust control training for a program for all site personnel. Is that something that's being created now? Is it something that was existing? Wasn't the way it was written, it sounds like it's not in place at this point in time. So could you clarify that for me?
Goodness, I can't do this. That's the dust mitigation plan that they've been operating on over the last 7 years, as I understand it. The applicant is welcome to respond to that as well.
Good evening. I'm Kent Penley. I'm the COO for A1 Organics. I live at 1135 Osprey Road in Eden, Colorado, 80615. Yes, sir. We have an existing plan that has been in place. We do have a training process for the operator of the water truck that actually does the water application. Any employee that's involved in performing the water application has to go through training for the truck, understand the purpose of what he's doing.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Like I say, the way it's written, it says will be, and I was confused because I just assumed that you had one in place at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Van Huzen?
Thank you. Staff answered the questions that I had previously alluded to for city, so thank you. During your presentation, I got the answers as far as the character area that it was from our comp plan, et cetera. I do have a couple of questions, though, for the applicant. One is, I'll tell you what they both are. That way we know who's going to come up and answer. The first is, where does the water come from? Is that municipal water or is it a well water? Second is, how are the wood chips dyed? Is that sprayed liquid? Is it pond soaking? Is it dusted? So those are my two questions.
The water that we use for the dust application process is municipal water. So we're metered and paid for it. The coloring process is, the dye is in a 4,200-pound tote. We have a coloring machine made by Color Biotics that's built specifically for doing this purpose, is used nationwide in many, many different mulch operations. Actually, in several operations up and down the Front Range with other competitors of ours. It's a contained system, so the dye and the water come into a mixture, and inside is like a large ribbon blender. So the raw wood chips are fed into the machine. They go into this ribbon blender, and a spray application at the ratio of pounds per gallon of the dye to water is sprayed onto the chips. The chips will then exit on a conveyor belt, up a conveyor belt, and into the stacking pile.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kiefer?
Yes, I have a question for staff first. Has Adams County Fire weighed in on the additional risks of having the higher stacks at all?
Yes, they have annual inspections on site.
But have they discussed the mitigation risks?
Oh, they
having-
were part of the development review process.
Okay.
So they reviewed it and gave comments, and because the business has been functioning as it's been functioning, there were no improvements or no changes that they were requesting.
Okay. And then, I guess I have it for the applicant. Just from personal experience, I grew up in the Midwest, and we spent a lot of time around mulch. And I saw a number of the fires from this spontaneous, but it's from the decomposition of the wood material. That risk increases the longer it sits there and generates more heat. And then as you have a taller pile, you definitely have more mass, which will then insulate itself and generate more heat, as well as continue the cycle of getting warmer and warmer. What length of time do you maintain your piles over 8 foot? And then what mitigation steps do you have in place to allow the process to not go to the point of combustion? And then have you experienced any issues with it whatsoever?
Sure. All valid concerns. To address the very first thing, we do comply with all the national fire codes that was set forth by Adams County. So our drive lanes, our pile sizes, not only on height, but on width and length are also measured as well. So everything is within the NFC and is satisfied by South Adams County's inspection. So we meet all those criteria just fine. To your other point, the biggest risk in the operation would be over the winter time, because that's when materials kind of stop moving. Nobody's doing yard work. Nobody's out putting new mulch in their yard in November and December. So that's when the real monitoring will kick in. We actually probe our piles with temperature probes, and we have portable probes as well that can just measure hot spots. So we do monitor that. We have a log of all the temperatures that we take and everything else, so we have warning limits if something is starting to get too warm. We haven't had an issue there, but it's a precautionary tale because that exactly can happen. At this site, the size of the site, what makes this work so well is you have to have a throughput model. Otherwise, the inventories would grow immensely there. So fortunately for us, we have a good sales side of our business also. So this material does rotate through there very, very quickly.
So just a possibility. So if your sales side didn't work out and you had to maintain it for an extended period of time, how would you handle the excessive buildup of heat from that?
So if we had excess inventory at this site that was beyond what we wanted to maintain or felt like would get out of control, we would simply move that material to our composting facility and take the carbon source into our composting operations and utilize it there.
You have definitely answered my questions. I appreciate that. And just one final one. How often do you guys probe that? Is it hourly, daily, weekly?
Weekly.
Weekly.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Schechter, do you have any questions?
No, I just have a discussion for us.
Okay.
If I could interject for just a moment, I did not mean to forget that we did receive one public comment. The applicant mentioned that. I reached out to find out where they live. They did not respond with a home address or anything like that. So I know that it's in your packet. I know you have it, but I didn't mean to not speak of it.
I have a question either for staff or for the applicant. How close are the residents to the site?
Frank, can we pull up the aerial? Or I can click to it if you can turn it on. I want to say off the top of my head that there's only 2 houses, but maybe the applicant can respond to that better.
Are they just adjacent to the property?
They're just to the east, I believe. Yeah, go ahead and speak to it.
Yes, the residential properties are on our east border. And that is the reason that the mesh fence was put up for a protective barrier from chips blowing through a regular chain link fence into their property. And that is also the reason for the setback for the storage of the material. And it's also the second setback of 500 feet where the grinding and screening operations occur even further away from the residences.
Okay, and then is there any possibility that the wood chips would be able to blow over into the residential property? The piles?
It would take a very healthy and sustained wind, but if you want to say, is there a possibility? Absolutely.
Well, I know Commerce City is windy.
Like
So
the
is it
normal wind
wet
conditions-
enough?
I'll say the normal wind conditions that we've experienced over the last 2 to 3 week period.
Right.
It's not resulted in that.
Okay,
Is that fair enough?
yes. Thank you.
And city staff has not received any complaints. That letter was the first of anything over the last 5 years.
Okay. Any other questions? Do any members of the public wish to provide comments on this case? No? Is there anyone attending virtually tonight who wishes to speak?
No, Chair.
Does the city wish to respond to any public testimony? Well, I guess you just did, right? At this time, I will now close the public hearing for this case. Is there any discussion from the commission?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to mention the letter that we got in opposition and the rebuttal. And I found them both very nice and well-written and on point, especially the letter in opposition is very nice and on point. It addresses, I'm seeing it to address, our criteria. The thing is that, yeah, these are just, as far as evidence, it's evidence, but it's fairly, I'd say it's definitely weaker than the rebuttal because it's assertions without much substantiation. And so I just have to weigh it less. I would say to people who submitted this or other people who might be concerned, just in the future, keep track, gather facts, submit something to the city if there's a problem. If any of these problems are actually happening and have it measured. But that's where I fall on it.
Any other discussion? Van Huzen? Commissioner Sanchez, you have any discussion? No? I just want to say, I think that what they're doing is a good service because they're recycling material that would otherwise end up in the landfill, which enough goes there anyway. And I think that if there wasn't a place for the people in Commerce City and other surrounding areas to bring that kind of material, it would all end up in the landfill, which we don't need it there. And I think they provide a good service to Commerce City by allowing the residents to bring their green waste several times a year to be able to dispose of it for free. And I'll have to say, I have been there myself every spring and every fall, so thank you, I appreciate it. Any other discussion?
My initial concerns were definitely that they were the fire hazard, but they definitely seem to have a mitigation in place, a plan in place, and it satisfies my concerns with that respect. And as for the letter that came in, I tend to agree with Mr. Schechter that the applicant has gone through and mitigated, or they've given a mitigation to every claim given, and since we don't have anything formally on file as a complaint, unless I'm mistaken, as the city staff stated, I'd have to say that the applicant has demonstrated that they are capable of handling all the requirements and that the letter is fairly unsubstantiated at that point then from the city, for the
Right, I agree with you, Commissioner Kiefer. And I think that if there was going to be a problem, they have enough inspections between the county and the city and the state and the fire department that something would have come up if there was a issue. So. Okay, at this time, I will now close the public hearing for this case. Can I get a motion on this case?
I would like to make a motion for approval with conditions. I move that the Planning Commission enter a finding that the requested conditional use permit for the property located at 9109 Montague Street, contained in the case CUP 25-0002, meets the criteria of the Land Development Code with conditions, and based upon such finding, recommend that the City Council approve the conditional use permit extension with the conditions outlined in the original conditional use permits.
Do I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Huzen and a second by Commissioner Sanchez. Is there any other discussion? No? Please open the electronic voting. The motion passes, 5 yes, 0 no, 0 absent. Congratulations, sir. I will now open the public hearing on case CUP 0003, Recycling Connections Incorporated Conditional Use Permit Renewal.
Okay. CUP 25-0003, Recycling Connections Incorporated, on behalf of RCI Investments LLC, is requesting renewal of a conditional use permit to continue operating a metal recycling business. The subject property is currently zoned I3, Heavy Intensity Industrial, consisting of 4.76 acres, and is located at 9985 East 104th Avenue. The existing conditional use permit was granted in May 2020 for a term of 4.5 years.
The applicant does not have a presentation, but they are here to answer questions. So we'll proceed with Kathleen's staff presentation, and then if the applicant has anything to add, they can address that, and then you can ask questions of staff and the applicant.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that confusion on the script. Honestly, that might be my fault because they were starting to run together with these two CUPs, so my apologies. Okay, the request is to renew the CUP, the conditional use permit, for the recycling facility, and the related cases are the previous two conditional use permits. They were each granted for about 5 years, or I think one was 5 and the other one was 4.5 or something. The location there is 9985 along 104th. We talked about the size of the property being 4.76 acres. Gosh, we already talked about all of this. The character area on our comprehensive plan map is within the Northern Business District. This is the zoning map here. You see the site outlined in yellow. It's in the hatched black area zoned I3. You can see that it's surrounded by pretty much all I3 except for the portion to the west, that is a PUD zone, and the portion to the north, that's a public zone. It fronts on 104th and it's just off of I-76. This is the aerial photography of the site. You can really see it really well, how organized it is with all the different recyclable metal materials. You can see where it takes access off of 104th, as well as if you go north on Florence Street, also has access point on the northwest corner of the site. This is our land use, our comprehensive land use plan map with the character area. You'll see a red star there within the purple, which is the Northern Business District. I also included from our comprehensive plan, I included a map of our connected corridors because 104th is one of those corridor areas. I just wanted to call that out. Just to give you some background on the site, it was first annexed in 2007, and there was a zone change to I-3 in 2008. The initial CUP was granted in 2015, and there was a consolidation plat in 2015 as well to expand the operation to an additional lot. So they did a lot consolidation. The conditional use permit was renewed again in 2020 and just was expired at the end of December, and they submitted this application at the beginning of December. Their operations consist of basically everything along the way with the metal recycling. So they're accepting the materials, they're sorting them, they're processing them, baling them, there's temporary storage, and then they're shipping off the recyclable metals. So there's small item recycling on site, and we'll look at that on the development plan in just a minute. And there's some larger construction-related metal recycling. Anything that's on site can let's see, shipment of the process. Any shipments or large recycling processors are done within 24 to 72 hours. They have 10 to 15 employees. These are the previous conditions with the conditional use permit. It expired, as I mentioned, in December. And the materials that are accepted at this recycling facility are only the ones that are outlined in Exhibit A, the materials list, which I'll get to on the screen here in just a moment. Now, if there are any whole crushed cars, they can be stored there for no more than 72 hours, but there's no actually a crushing of the vehicles occurring on site. There's no storage of inoperable vehicles allowed as well. The applicant has to, and the last condition is that if the applicant were ever to cease operating their recycling facility, they need to let the city know. Here's a list of the different materials. You'll see it includes copper, aluminum, brass, stainless steel, lead, steel, and some electronic scrap. And then it has a list of all the things that are unaccepted. I think it's kind of nice that it isn't just what it's accepted. It provides clarification by including those unaccepted materials. This is the development plan. The key areas are labeled in red. You will see the buildings. There's, 4 buildings on site. To the west there. To the west, you'll see the small volume loading staging area. And then just east of that is the shipping and staging of the processed metals. And you'll also see the large volume unloading staging area, as well as the shipping staging of processed of different materials. Here is a photo that is taken, I want to say this is right at the corner of the site. The applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the corner of the site at 104th and, oh my goodness, what was that street name? Thank you, sorry, too many applications. Florence and 104th. And then there's another photo, and this is taken off of Florence where I showed that access point there at the northeast corner. This is driving into the facility. And you see the fence does a pretty decent job of screening it fairly well. Okay, we'll go over this criteria just like we did in the last one. The first criteria is that they will not result in any substantial or undue adverse impact on adjacent properties. Keep in mind, this business has been functioning for 10 years now and doing a great job complying with all of the conditions. They will not result in any substantial or adverse effect. They will maintain the character just as they have been doing over the last 10 years. The second criteria is that if there are any adverse effects, they will be mitigated. So as a part of the original application, they were required to install the screen-style fencing. They have landscape along the public right-of-way, detention pond, and they just continue to maintain that to meet that criteria. The third criteria, the characteristics of the site are suitable for the proposed conditions of the size, shape, location, topography. With no proposed changes to the operation or the site layout, the characteristics of the site continue to be suitable for this operation. The fourth criteria, that the proposed use will be adequately served and will not impose an undue burden on any of the existing improvements. We've already talked about how it's already developed, it's already been functioning as the metal recycling facility, and they are also well-served because just to the north where you saw that public zoned property, that is the fire station. So if there were any emergency, the fire station is right there adjacent. Criteria 5, the applicant has provided adequate assurances of continuing maintenance. They have done a great job of demonstrating that they continue to maintain the conditional use permit as under the conditions that it was granted originally. Criteria 6, there's no evidence to suggest that they're violating any federal, state, or local laws. That is correct. They continue to show that there's no violation of any of those requirements. And the final criteria, it's an either or, and this is the one they meet. The use complies with the general purposes, objectives, and objectives and policies within the comprehensive land use plan for Commerce City. And this is just similar to the last application where we talk about, we have a couple chapters in the comp plan. We have chapter 7 talks about commerce and employment, so they continue to provide employment to the area, and we're excited to have a business. We like retention of business, and they continue to stay with us. And then in chapter 11, parks, open space, and the environment, we want to hone in on that environment and how what they're doing is also a form of sustainability, and we really appreciate the recycling of the materials and what a great job that they've done existing at 10 years now as a business. We did receive one public comment from, hold on here. Tucker Robinson, and he's of Hampton Yard for LLC. I don't know if that's an adjacent property owner or just similar in the business. Maybe the applicant knows who that person is. No, okay. They just, you received in your packet, I think today, or at least there's a copy of the letter, the email from that person just saying they supported the CUP, nothing specific. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. And I know the applicant is here. They chose not to prepare an application, or excuse me, the presentation because they've done this a couple times already, so.
Thank you, Kathleen. Are there any questions for the applicant or staff? Commissioner Van Huzen.
Thank you. Where does the raw material come from?
So that's a great question. Oh, Dominic Brienza, 9985 East 104th Avenue. So that's a great question. So we are actually pulling material from basically all over the state of Colorado, as far as Silt, Colorado in the mountains, down from Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Greeley, west in Bennett. And then we also pull out from Wyoming, Nebraska, Texas. We've pulled in from Arkansas, and we just kind of consolidate, and then we will kind of put everything together, coppers with coppers, aluminums with aluminums, and then ship them to their correct mills.
So it doesn't show up to you on small loads? It's actually
Yes and
brought?
no. Yes and
okay.
no. So we do have a public side, and that's on the far west where the public can come down, and it's a shedded area where the scales are. And it's basically like a drive-through, kind of like you'd go through McDonald's, something like that. And our guys are there to help them and sort and help them, and then they'll get a ticket and they go into the office and get paid.
So community members
Yes.
potentially also have
Oh, absolutely.
a resource for their own recycling and so forth.
I believe in the past, some of the council members, when we did the presentation, they said they'd been to our property before.
Yeah, okay. That was one question. Next, how does it leave?
So we have a baler on site. So if it's aluminum, copper, if it's softer metals, that stuff will get cubed up and baled up, and it gets shipped out in a 53-foot van trailer. Our iron will get loaded up with our big claws into end dumps and sent to one of the other shredder facilities in the Denver metro area.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Yeah, just a question for staff. Looking at compliance, item B on, I don't remember, page 3, talked about just being able to review via aerial photograph, how often, what kind of compliance is actually taken with the site?
Okay, can you read for me one more time since I don't have that in front of me? I meant to print it out and I printed out the wrong thing. That you're speaking to a specific criteria, is that correct?
It would be item B in the compliance, it's on page 3. It just says when crushed cars can be stored on the site for no longer than 72 hours, no vehicle crushing will be allowed to occur on the site, no storage in inoperable vehicles will be permitted. And then the bullet point is staff has reviewed aerial photography. I mean, is that once,
Oh, okay.
once
I'm
a year, once in a lifetime? What are we
Yeah,
talking
no,
about?
thank you so much for bearing with me. I am filling in for Omar, who is home with a brand new baby. So it's amazing with aerial photography, we have it going back years and years. And the most recent aerial photography, they update about 3 to 4 times a year. So what the planner, Omar, was able to do was he could page back and literally go back as far as he could with one software and then go online and use a different database to go back years to see, okay, are they actually doing what they said? It's a fabulous resource. Does that answer your question?
Almost. But how often? I mean, are we talking once a year? That's what I'm trying to get at. How do we measure compliance and how often?
Oh.
You answered the how, and I need the
Yes,
how often.
yes. With this type of situation, someone would have to probably submit a complaint for us to really be checking on it. We do have code enforcement that drives by on a regular basis all over the city. They're always looking to make sure that people comply. I couldn't tell you how frequently someone's looking at the aerial photography. My thought was that the planner did that just to make sure before coming forward with this, with his review of the application.
Okay, well, you.
Sorry that I'm not probably
No,
giving
well,
you the best
you
answer.
just mentioned that people drive by the site.
Yes.
In addition to, so that's really what I was getting
Yeah,
to.
we have great code enforcement staff. They do it all over the city, and
Okay.
they're on top of it.
Fine, thank you.
Commissioner Kiefer? No? Commissioner Schechter? No? I have a question for, I guess, staff. Is this site inspected by state, city, county, fire department, like the last applicant was for?
They would be inspected by the fire department annually, absolutely. Gosh, I don't know if I can speak to the state and how frequently they do inspections, but
bet
maybe the
you
applicant
can,
can, since
right?
they are there when it happens.
So we do have our annual inspection from the fire department, and then the state also sends out from the health department, they check as well as the Department of Ag for our scales. And they just make sure our scales are in compliance and that we're not cheating anyone.
And how often are the inspections? Are they once a year?
Annually, yes. ma'am.
Annually? Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any more questions for staff or the applicant? Is there any public testimony?
There is none.
No, nobody virtually?
No, Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I will close the public hearing for this case. Is there any, oh, we did that. Can I get a motion for the case?
I move that the Planning Commission enter a finding that the requested conditional use permit for the property located at 9985 East 104th Avenue, contained in case CUP 25-0003, meets the criteria of the Land Development Code with conditions, and based upon such finding, recommend that the City Council approve the conditional use permit with the conditions outlined in the conditional use permit that was previously on file.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kiefer and a second by Commissioner Sanchez. Please open the electronic voting.
Were there?
What's the matter?
I was confused as to the conditions.
The conditions existed on file. They have 4. Do you need to read them?
First
Okay.
The motion passes, 5 yeses, 0 nos. Thank you to the applicant. Congratulations. All right, you too. Next on our agenda is a review on the update to the Planning Commission bylaws. Assistant City Attorney Jean Gill would present this item. Jean and Deputy Director Heather Bidlock are both available for questions during the presentation.
Jean just stepped away to use the restroom. She'll be right back.
Okay.
But basically, what we did is we worked as a team to go through the bylaws with the city clerk, city attorney, and planning. And we made suggested updates in the red line. After you hear from Jean and ask any questions, we can't have you vote on the new bylaws tonight. It always takes 2 steps. So you can review them tonight and then direct us to proceed with creating a clean copy of the bylaws for the next meeting. And then at the next meeting, you can actually vote on them.
Okay.
Will it be a problem that I may not be seated next time?
What did you say?
Would it be, so I don't know if I would be seated next time. Should I not vote on this, or should I not be involved in this so that there's no?
There's no vote tonight. We're just introducing them to you tonight.
Right.
But if
You can't
have-
vote till next month.
But if you have comments tonight, you can still make those. If you feel like there's edits or concerns or whatever, feel free to participate.
Okay.
I don't really know how to use this to like scroll because it's just a Word document, right? Sorry, I don't usually present, so please bear with me if I don't know how to do this remote thing here. Okay, we'll see how that works. So most of these edits are just sort of to bring, edits that I proposed are just sort of to bring the bylaws up to date with how we're operating now. So some of it there, I just went through to better define the rules and policies that we're talking about, like the CCRMC, instead of just saying ordinances. I think you're going a bit fast because they need time to review. So they're just defining things, not really changing anything substantively. It's more just for format there. Then now if we can go down to chairperson. So we've just kind of cleaning this up to make sure that it's clear, since there was that question that y'all had about whether there needs to be the appointment of the vacant seat before you could vote on the new commissioner, or new chair, excuse me. So we wanted to just add that little sentence that makes it clear for anyone questioning in the future that it just happens at the next regular meeting after the vacancy in the position occurs. We took out the chair will sign documents. There are certain documents that the chair needs to sign, but then also not the minutes, and there's been some confusion about that, so we just took that line out to kind of help not confuse people, if that makes sense.
Would you like comments as we go or at the end?
What
Or
seems
questions?
most helpful to y'all? Would you like me to run through it first, or do you want to talk about it section by section?
As we go? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I have a
As we
quick
go?
question.
Great.
As far as, and this came up tonight, if we had chosen to elect a chair, is that only from seated commissioners, or could it have been Mr. Kiefover? Or Kiefer, I'm sorry.
It's from regular members,
All right, so no one who is an alternate.
right?
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Yeah, I think we're ready to move on. So then this discusses alternate members that they may attend but otherwise don't vote unless they're participating as a regular member that night. Just sort of not really any big changes here. That was just syntax change there. So then this 4 was to add clarity for how the new attendance policies by that new ordinance passed by council affects an alternate. And so what the guidance we got is that alternates will be subject to that attendance policy when they're acting as a regular member. So if they're a no-show on that night, then that's enacts the new guidelines or new rules on that. So then attendance, we've said all regular members will attend meetings in accordance with the current charter, CCRMC policy, and other resolutions, so that in the future, if there are other changes in the rules and regulations by an ordinance or however council may change that in the future, we don't have to come back and keep updating the bylaws every time something changes. So that's why I changed it to this language saying it'll just be according to the rules, so that whatever the rules are as they change, this will never be an inaccurate statement.
Frank, can you explain to the commission what those new attendance rules are?
My understanding is that for regular members, if they have 2 unexcused absences, then they are procedurally out of the commission and they have to write to the chair, which in this case would be Commissioner Eggleston, of why they should be brought back. And then at that point, it's up to the chair to approve or deny.
At the outside chance, for some reason, Deborah was unable to attend 2 meetings, how would that be handled? Since, would they go to the vice chair or would it go to the rest of the commission?
So it's unexcused. So that's part of, I don't remember if you were here the last time I talked about this, but a motion that will now occur if someone is out is whether they are excused or unexcused. And so what that really is supposed to be coming down to is whether that person let the chair know if they could attend or not. You're not really supposed to be getting into their personal lives and trying to decide if they really had a doctor's appointment or not. You're being asked, did they communicate to the chair or did they just not show up? So that's really the point behind the excused or unexcused. So if someone has to be absent, then at the beginning, you all would do a motion and the chair would, let you know if the person had communicated with them or not, and then you would vote on that. So if someone has 2 unexcused absences, that invokes what he was describing.
Yeah, I understand that. The concern I had was it would be excused by the chair. And I'm saying if the chair had 2 unexcused absences, how would that be handled at that point in time?
I mean, same thing, but it would be for everyone to vote on. It's not for the chair to decide if it's excused or unexcused. That's what I mean by it's a motion that so when you have a motion, everyone has to vote on it.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions about the language I put in for attendance? And so then when it says above for alternates that when acting as a regular member, then they're subject to the attendance, then again, that's just, I know it all sounds a bit vague, but it's just trying to make bylaws that you're not having to update every single time council changes something, was part of my goal there. So then with meetings, we proposed this change for Election Day because it often, or has happened a few times now, that we've had to reschedule our meeting because it's fallen on an election day, being that this occurs on Tuesdays. And I know that most of you kind of plan ahead for keeping your Tuesdays free, and when we have to reschedule meetings, that can be difficult. So what we wanted to do is make it an option. And so that's why it says the commission may decide to reschedule a meeting to another day by a majority vote. So you're not forced to do it every time there's an election day, which is how it was written before, but you have the option to reschedule. Because I know, especially with the way we vote in Colorado, it usually isn't a big deal to still show up here on election day, but that's for y'all to decide.
And for the holidays, we can identify if there's any holidays that would fall on a Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month at the beginning of the year. And we can identify an alternate date at that time. Because we plan, months in advance for what agenda items are coming on to your schedule. And so it's really helpful if we can identify an alternate date. So we'll take a look at the calendar. I don't know if there's anything other than Election Day this year that falls on a Tuesday, but we'll report back to you so that we can get that rescheduled. Like, for instance, Veterans Day or Juneteenth, or, some of the holidays that are on a specific day of the month.
4th of July.
Yeah,
Right.
4th of July, right.
So we would address those at the beginning of the year, but you would still have the opportunity to vote on it. So with special meetings, we just wanted to change the language there to just sort of, we thought that this change made it a little less cumbersome so that you have some say over when special meetings are happening, and it just was more clear about who does it and how. And then the other change is the fact that we are now operating under Bob's rules instead of Robert's rules, which was a decision by City Council that all boards and commissions are doing. So this is a change coming from City Council, but we needed to expressly say it. Any questions about these changes? Yeah, I'm trying to, but, oh, sorry. Being such an old lady about the tech, okay. That was just a weird typo there, 9, that I fixed. Why do I keep losing the, there, okay. So, and some of this procedural stuff, the only reason that we removed it is because we're following Bob's rules, and Bob's rules dictates this procedure. So we just removed any of the language that discusses procedure because we feel that's covered by the fact that we're following Bob's rules. And then again, just saying that this will be all of the way that you conduct yourself and things like that will be according to the city's charter, rules in the code, policy, and other resolutions of the city. Just changed that one word, thought it sounded a little softer, and don't want you to be held to maybe not hearing back from someone when trying to ask if they're amenable to something. And then again, the public hearings, that's just going to be in accordance with Bob's rules, or if there's something specific that's required in the LDC or the charter or the code, then just keeping that language there so that whatever changes in the future, we don't have to come back and rewrite. In testimony and evidence, just grammar changes, nothing substantive. So with the order, again, we just are changing that to update how this new group is doing it. Now that we have some new people in CD, we've been changing some stuff over 2025 about the order in which we're doing things. So we just updated that here to reflect the way that we're now conducting the presentations. Anywhere that we've removed the reference to a certain LDC section, that's because we have the new LDC. And rather than go through and update whatever the new LDC, the similar LDC section number would be in the new LDC, we figured we could just take it out because you're subject to the LDC anyways, so we don't need to enumerate it here. And then again, I don't want you to be required to come back anytime something changes in the LDC, you've got to come back and change your bylaws. So it was that same thought process there. Again, why we took out the specifics here was just because of the changes in the LDC, or if the council decides to change your scope or anything like that, we just thought you're subject to the code and the charter and the LDC, and we don't have to restate what they're saying here in this document. Same mentality continues for why we took out all of this stuff, which just restates what is under your authority in the LDC. We just decided it's not necessary to state it here because it says it publicly in the LDC. Again, just syntax stuff I changed here, nothing substantive, just to make things a little bit more clear that each section is talking about all commission members. Then we did make a lot of changes to conduct because again, we feel that's covered by city policy, code, charter, and Bob's rules. So rather than list it all out here, just say what you're subject to. And then, of course, please demonstrate respect for each other, city staff, and the public. And that is it. Is there anything y'all wanted me to go back to?
I think you did a great job. I like removing a lot of the things that you did because it just cluttered it, you know? So I think that this is an easier to work with manifestation. So yeah, I greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I like the attention to plain language. That's great.
Thank you, Commissioner. Does anyone have any suggestions or edits they want to make for us? Okay.
Yeah,
you for
not
your
through
time.
these bylaws. I think they're great. I think they'll work for quite some time, so,
That was the goal.
okay.
Thank you.
And there's nothing we can do with the bylaws to take care of the vacancy that Garrett created. So in the future, we always have to deal with something like that if someone vacates in the middle of a term, right?
In the future, how will we handle it when someone vacates in the middle of the term?
But that we cannot change the bylaws to handle how that would be dealt with, because we just have to carry that vacancy until the next appointment period, right? There's nothing we can do to fix that.
Well, the next appointment period for appointing a new member to the commission,
Yes,
so that's handled by council.
Right.
Right, so
Our
that's not
bylaws.
something we can address in our
that's
bylaws.
what I thought. All right, thank you.
Sorry, it took me a second to follow your question.
No worries.
So with that, thank you for the city attorney's office in helping us get these cleaned up, and thank you for your time tonight. We will present a clean, non-red line version in next month's packet, and then we'll ask you to vote on the approval of the new bylaws next month.
Thank you for your presentation, Jean. Is there any commission business to discuss at this time? Is there any attorney business to discuss at this time besides the bylaws?
No, Chair, and I don't have any new news about the appointment of the vacancy either, but I'm sure as soon as we know, staff will reach out to y'all.
Okay.
Do we have any follow-up from City Council on any of our recommendations?
So, yes, I'll give the staff update. Last night at City Council, they had 3 cases that you had heard previously and recommended. The first was the rezoning of the police substation property. There was 1 vote against that, but everyone else voted for it. And the other rezoning on 60th Avenue was also approved last night. And the Peoria Street right-of-way vacation was approved last night. Just a couple other items from staff. Looking at the new, the upcoming dates for your meetings. We may have told you about an upcoming joint study session with City Council on the legislative rezone that was supposed to happen on April 27th. We found out today that that night, the City Council is having a developer roundtable. And so it's too complicated to try to have a joint study session with Planning Commission. So they're gonna just hear staff's update on the legislative rezone that evening, and then we're gonna come to you in a separate time at the May 4th meeting to be able to give you the same update. And then looking ahead at other schedules, we know we've had relatively full agendas these last few months, and with only 1 meeting a month, that is gonna continue. So thanks for your time and attention. In terms of next meetings, so we do have an April 7th Planning Commission meeting that will have several items. And then following that will be the May 4th meeting that I talked about a minute ago. So we'll have to do development cases at the beginning and then adjourn to study session and talk about the legislative rezone. So that's what's coming up on your calendar. In terms of the new chair, congratulations to Deborah Eggleston. I will be reaching out to you, and I did this with Garrett Biltoft, to have a discussion about, kind of launch the discussion about work planning for the commission and, start to talk about what your work plan would look like for the remainder of the year. And then after we've talked, we can kind of report back to the rest of the commission and, establish a more firm work plan. Obviously, this year, the legislative rezoning is a big work item that we're working on, and so there's going to be multiple touch points with you throughout the summer as we continue to do public outreach on the legislative rezoning. On that note, postcards went out this past week, and there's an article in the Connected newsletter inviting the public that lives in proximity to the northern part of the city. The postcards only went to properties that are near where we're looking at making a change to the zoning. So either the property owners that are in that property to be changed, or the property owners around the property where the change would be. And that identifies that there's two opportunities for the public to engage and to ask questions about that. One is next Tuesday, March 10th, and that will be at Bison Ridge Rec Center. And the other is March 17th, and that's a virtual meeting. There is a web page set up specifically for the legislative zoning, and so all those dates will be kept up to date on that web page. And there is also a map that our GIS team helped us create, which is a working map of, okay, here's what the old zoning is, and here's what we're proposing as the new zoning. So the public can stay in touch with what the potential changes would be by viewing that map. And the ultimate goal, of course, is that next fall we'll come forward in public hearings before Planning Commission and City Council for adoption of the new zoning map. As when the city embarks on zoning, it's called legislative zoning because you're acting in a legislative manner as the city. Any questions on that? Yeah.
I did see that announced on social media.
Oh, good.
About those meetings coming up. And I
Perfect.
was wondering if it was located in the northern range because they're more heavily impacted, or?
Oh, thanks for that question. So we're breaking down the city into two phases. We're doing the northern neighborhoods first, and then we're going to tackle the core city. So in the summer, there will be another set of open houses at Eagle Point Rec Center for the folks that live in the core city. It was just too big a bite for us to try to do everything at once, so we broke it down geographically. But thanks for that question.
Thank you, that makes sense.
Chair, I did have something I wanted to mention quickly before we end, is now that we're starting to occasionally filter in the new code, depending on how the applicant applied, we're gonna add that new code to your binders and have both of them in there, since we're sort of operating with two codes at the moment. Is there anything else y'all would like me to add to your binders?
I think Bob's rules is good. Yeah.
I asked her if she thought we should do a printout of Bob's rules. Do you think that would be helpful? Probably. Is there anything else you wish you could flip to while you're up there?
Bob's rules cheat sheet would be great.
That's right here.
Exactly.
It's on the back.
back.
It's, yeah, all of you have that in the plastic of your,
Thank you.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go that far. I just looked at everything inside in the front cover, but thank you. I'm glad to know it's on the backside.
Cheat sheet will remain, and then we'll do a printout of Bob's rules and the new
Cool.
code. Your pretty new bylaws, once those have been approved.
Yeah,
If you think of
bylaws in
anything else, let me know. I can always print it out and put it in your binders. But just wanted to pose that question to you.
I just have one more announcement. I was recently promoted from planning manager to deputy director of community development, so I have a new job title. I will still be supporting the planning commission, probably for the long term, as the director and I have talked about it. You will continue to see me supporting you and working with you. And I look forward to that in my new capacity.
Well, congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah.
I also had a question for the commission. Currently, I poll you for initial attendance about 3 weeks in advance. I just wanted to ask and confirm that that is sufficient time. Do you think it's too much time and would like me to reduce that? Do you want me to send a second follow-up email? I kind of do that when I publish the agenda the week before. So I just wanted to get input on that if we're still okay with the initial polling being 3 weeks.
How fast do you get responses?
Varies, sometimes right away, and then other times when I publish the agenda the week before.
So then do you think us responding a week before sufficient time for you to be able to find an alternate if one of the regular members cannot attend?
Yeah, that actually is plenty of time to do that.
Okay. Well, a week's fine with me. Is a week's fine with everybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine either way. I mean, I usually respond
Yes.
when I see that, but I will let you know, I generally only check my email once a week. So if you don't hear, that's why I like the 3-week, because you hear from me at least 2 weeks before usually. If you do it a week before, you can assume I'm going to be here unless I have reached out by then.
Okay.
But I appreciate having a little more time. So maybe 2 weeks would give you a little leeway with my email checking, so.
Either way, if I don't hear from you the week before, when I publish the agenda, I do reach out a different way, which is through phone call to see if, I could get an answer for that attendance, because it is vital that we achieve quorum, because as Heather mentioned, that we have a lot of cases in the queue, so the sooner we punch them out, the better, I believe.
Well, good, then just call me if you don't hear from me in time.
I think I'm hearing the recommendation is 2 weeks and then 1 week.
2 weeks and then the week before when I publish the agenda?
I think that's what I'm hearing. Is that correct? Great.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sanchez. The time is now 7:58 and the regular meeting is adjourned. Good job. Well, thank you. I have a script.